since we've got an exciting day ahead of us. Morning. We appreciate you joining in the morning for rearranging your other commitments so that you can take part in this session. We are very happy to see you again all together. Today's, in fact, a day all in the sign of togetherness, because it's about partnerships. It's about building a team. It's about not having to do things alone unless you really want to, and seeing also the benefits of that. You can see and hear, well, you can see my northern lights. The reality out here looks quite good. I'm in Germany visiting my parents. It had been a long time. You can hear the birds. I hope it's not too distracting when I speak. It's real. It's not a sound effect. At least the birds are real. I'm on a terrace. I hope the connection is good. I am grateful that Homos, Lucas, and Jane and Laura are here today to help us facilitate the session. We'll be sharing stories. We'll be sharing with you ideas and some guides around partnerships and volunteering and networking. And we will have guest speakers from Social Enterprise UK, so it's going to be an exciting session. I'm going to try and start screen sharing now. Lucas, I appreciate you will most likely look after the attendance and see that other people still join. Hi, Sophia, welcome. I will start now my screen share. We are hopefully seeing my screen. If somebody can just give me an audible or a thumbs up.
Yeah, it looks good, Fred.
Thanks, Lucas. Thanks, Homos. Can you see a little, the panels, are they obscuring any of the screen, or can you see a full screen view?
Can see the full screen view.
Great. So guys, we did the awesome kickoff. We are now in the second workshop. You've, I think, all had your, or most of you anyway, have had your first coaching sessions. Hopefully you have some new goals and started developing a great relationship with your coaches, Homos and Jane, which is really exciting as a central part of how you're benefiting from ideas into action, the thing that binds everything together. Today we are in the second workshop. We are here till 12:45. For those who can stay that long, it would be fantastic. We have lots to cover, but we also understand some of you have commitments, which means you should then catch up on the other activities that you didn't see live, because they're really vital in planning and launching your social enterprise, or growing it for that matter. Of course, we soon have the crowdfunding session coming up. That's when we start planning your fundraisers with Bertie, who some of you met, most of you met at the kickoff event. We'll start preparing later on the showcase, and we'll deliver the showcase, but we will also work with you with the Spark service. Hopefully most of you actually had a chance to read the email we sent around about the Spark service and other updates recently. Please start make use of that to develop different aspects of your business. In terms of today, we will hear from Homos and Jane about the importance of networks and social capital for social enterprises and nonprofits. We will hear a guest presentation by Social Enterprise UK. We will have a 10-minute break after the guest presentation by Sophia, which is also bringing a guest along on top of that, who will talk about his own experience. We will be going into breakouts afterwards to discuss your partnership needs, the barriers that you are facing, and how you can network to find partners. So it's all about having a partnership strategy ultimately. We will take a little comfort break. We will hopefully have enough time to talk about building a team of volunteers and maybe even co-founders, and why that matters. And hopefully have a little bit of activity time to start thinking it through. You won't finish these strategies for partnerships and volunteers today necessarily, but you can get started and start a thread of thinking that you carry on into your coaching, into your sessions in Spark, or on your own time. And to finish, sure, we want to give you some tips and some follow-on tools that you can use to actually reach out because it obviously doesn't all happen inside this workshop. You have to carry that out into the world, do your own thing. We want to share a few pieces of information at the end if we have time. Otherwise, we'll do that via email. Homos, Jane, anything else you want to add up front? I think I had forgotten to mention this bit here, the value of partnerships. That was the wrong animation sequence. But Homos, Jane, anything else you want to add at this point? No. Okay, so you've been thinking about the how do I start a social enterprise? How do I grow it? How do I launch a nonprofit? How do I grow it? But actually it's a lot about not just the how, but it's also about the who. People matter, not just the people that you serve, the customers, clients, or users, however you want to call them, but rather the people that surround you, whether they're inside your organization or whether they are partner organizations, whether they are people that come to help you free of charge as volunteers, or whether it's people that you employ, or even people that become your co-founders, your co-directors, people who are by your side. Why shoulder everything alone? We had some really good thoughts around self-care in the first kickoff session. I think part of self-care is asking for help, being comfortable with that, and having great people around you who do things well that you don't do so well, or that you do very well, but that you can't do all of. And really strengthen numbers is powerful, especially in social enterprise. So that's what we want to talk about today. I think this is time to hand over to Homos and Jane for the first part about the importance of networks. Guys, would you like to take over the screen sharing yourselves, or would you like me to screen share for you?
Thank you very much, Fred. And it's lovely to see you all. I can't see all of you on the screen. I wish we were in the room together. It's much better that way, but we're so happy to be working with you. And we've really enjoyed working with you in the coaching situation. We know you're raring to go. So today will be really important because of all the things that could help you in developing your business, your social enterprise. Networks and people, Fred is absolutely right, are the most important thing. Can we have the next clicks, please? 3 reasons why. They will be your partners and your support for developing the business. They'll be the talent that you need to keep you going, spot new ideas. And in some cases, they'll be providing you with the resource you need, the funders. Next click, please. Okay, so Homos and I thought we'd like to give you a couple of real-life short case studies of things that happened to us in Results CIC, our social enterprise. We keep it short, but we want to emphasize we've been in business for 10 years this year. And these things happened about 6 or 7 years ago when we were still developing. We want to show you how important just one contact can be. And so the examples are with these very impressive sounding names. You know, the University of Manchester, it's 200 years old almost, and BBC, you know those names, I'm sure. But let's tell you what happened, because contacting big organizations like that is often done at first through one person finding a contact. So I'm going to start and tell you about these 3 points. With the University of Manchester, who was the contact? The contact was a woman who was a volunteer like me, and she and I were volunteers at Manchester Deaf Centre, which is a charity. So we were both trustees doing volunteer work there. And she's a hearing woman, but an academic at the university who headed up a group of deaf social worker researchers. So it's nice contact. And what happened? I'm telling the truth. She said, "Oh, Jane, it's been nice to meet you, but I'll be leaving soon because I've been a trustee for about 5 years, but shall we have a coffee?" That's what happened. And please accept invitations to coffee. because I thought that's nice. And I thought we have a chat. She could sound really nice. There was a good rapport. But what happened after that? The coffee, actually, she wanted to raise an important question about the new service that the university needed. She had the staff at the university who had disabilities. And so after the coffee, she introduced us to another connection, the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion had. And from there, we started to plan a programme for the disabled staff. And that became, at that point, our biggest development programme over 6 months, semi-intensive with coaching and training. And it continued for 5 years. That was the outcome. But it started with a coffee. Thomas, tell us about the BBC. How did that one work?
Sure. And I think what the other thing to add about Jane's story, that it took time. You know, we really had to work hard at it, but we stayed with it. And with the time that it took, it was so well worth it. The results were fantastic. So my story about BBC is that it started with me just reading an article in The Guardian about 2 employees who had started a project about awareness about neurodiversity within BBC North, based very close to where we are. And it was to raise awareness of the needs of neurodiverse people within the organization. Quite out of nowhere in a way. And for me thinking, well, that's really interesting. It's the kind of work we actually do quite a lot of. Who can I contact in the BBC? And out of nowhere, in the sense that I suddenly remembered that I had an acquaintance, not a friend, an acquaintance at BBC, but he happened to be the general manager of the BBC. So I plucked up the courage to just send an email to him out of the blue and to say, just read this article. Is it possible to have a coffee with you, to have a chat? And that's where it started. He then said immediately, come in, there's a focus in terms of the kind of diversity we're looking at, not just to do with disability, but overall. And our conversation there led on to us being hired to deliver 2 programs, one for disabled staff and the other one for hiring managers who needed to look at that hiring in a much broad way than what the BBC was used to, i.e. much more diverse hiring for the BBC. So it was a fantastic way to get into working with BBC, but it was a situation of making that connection with the right person. Okay, thank you for that. Can I have the next slide if you're there, Lucas? Because I can't. Yeah, thank you. The next thing I'm going to talk about is when we think about what strategies should be like. So this is another example about us. In 2017, 5 years ago, we had reached a point where we had done quite a lot of work, mainly by the thrust of our own activities, by making these connections, the examples of which we've given you. And at that point, we thought about how we could really expand this a lot more. And we decided to create an advisory panel of people we knew, and who we also knew, importantly, they were very well connected and highly influential. It's a kind of thing, I can tell you more about that, but that basically is what happened, creating that panel. We're not a charity, so we don't have a board of trustees that can advise you. So we created this ourselves, and the person you see in the middle there, Ruth Ibek-Buna, was instrumental in terms of getting us into this program, in the sense that we had done quite a lot of work funded by the lottery already. And she just gave us a tip. She said, you've got a really good track record with the lottery. Why don't you go to them and say you want 3 years funding for a project? So we pitched 3 different projects to them, and they really liked the idea of this program that we're now delivering to you with Turn and Social Enterprise UK. So 5 years later, here we are, thanks to that connection that there was with Ruth. Importantly, they need to have similar values, obviously. This is what's on the slide. Okay, Jane is going to now talk a little bit about what barriers there might be when we're looking at networking.
Thank you, Homos. I just saying AJ arrived. Welcome, AJ, just joining us. So the question on the left, that was a challenge to us from our third director. We used to have 3 directors, and the third person has now half retired, semi-retired and stepped down. But he asked us that challenging question, which is a good one. He said, with this advisory panel, with this strategy, how can you guarantee it will bring on new business? So that's an interesting question, because actually the answer is you cannot guarantee. You have to be able to imagine the unimaginable when you run a business. However, the bullet points are coming. What we did through those 3 people was to massively boost the potential of their contacts, as well as them. It was their contacts and the people they knew, such as the person who was mentioned, and the people they knew too. So you hugely statistically increase the chances of reaching more people. Can we have the next clicks? It's almost, I think you're operating the slides. So the answer is we can't. We can't guarantee, but we have to believe in creating maximum possibilities. Now the next slide, thank you. I want to make this point because I think we all take a personal pride in doing what we do. I think there's a lot of self-reliance amongst people who start their own organisations and business, which is a great thing. But think about what's going on inside you and check whether your pride in what you do and your self-reliance may also be a little bit of resistance when you need to ask for help. Can I have a coffee with you? If they don't invite you for a coffee, why not ask them? I put in chat about the BBC contact who almost found the courage to ask the general manager of BBC, or the big man, an important person, to ask, can we have a discussion? Push yourself a little bit beyond your comfort zone in that respect. Okay, thank you. I think back to Homos. Now you're going to do a quiz with us. Right?
Yes, just a very quick quiz with you to really show the power of networks. And here are the questions. How many contacts does one adult have on average? And that includes people you might say hello to as you go walking down the road and you see them regularly. Just try and guess. Did somebody, yeah. Have you launched the poll? Yes, you have.
I think I have, Homos. Guys, can you see the questions? Normally a little Zoom poll notification should have shown up. I think somebody has just
yeah, I'm looking at it too, but yeah. I couldn't interact with it, but it seems to be okay. I can see one person has put their answers in. Don't dwell on this too much. The numbers will either astound you or and I've just seen a mistake that I have to own up to. I've seen a mistake, but it doesn't matter. It gives a flavor of what you think. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people have responded so far. Okay. Eight. Okay. Let's end it and see the results. So the first one, between people thinking about 80, 100, 40, and the lowest number is 150, which could be the closest to the correct result, because the actual number is 300. And this is based on social analysts doing research here. It is based on research, and social analysts do, it's a mixture of, you know, maths and anthropology and psychology and looking at things. So there is an error there. The correct answer is in fact B, 300. What a surprise that is. So if you look at the next one, which then looks at your overall network, the popular answer there is 1500, and some people are going as high up as 22,500. But guess what the answer is? The one that nobody thought of, 90,000. That is, if you, on average again, if you have 300 contacts yourself, they have another 300 that, you know, via Facebook and Instagram, etc. It grows up to a dramatic 90,000 people. That's quite mind-boggling. It's what I mentioned before. Now, in terms of widespread change, this is based on research again. What is needed to make a, you know, a behavioral change is again what you've scored the lowest. It is in fact 150 people. That's all you need to start making that change. It's interesting to see that you 70 has scored quite high there. It's a little bit higher than that to be able to start making that change. Any comments about that quiz from anyone?
I'm curious,
No.
almost whether it makes people confident or scared, or both.
Okay, I think the 300 that we don't realize we have within our network is something to make us more confident. The 300 that they know should make us much more confident. Yeah. And the 150 is neither here nor there, but it's quite a low number again. You need to, within that network, get 150 people who think similarly to you to create change. Okay. But do not underestimate the power of your network, because, you know, how far away was I from the guy from the BBC? How far away was Jane from getting us into that situation into University of Manchester? It takes a few connections to get there. Russell.
Yeah, I think I read something about that. No matter who you're trying to reach, there are like 10 people who can get you there. Even if you're talking about like the president of the United States, if you follow this kind of networking model, you can get to whoever you want using maximum of 10 connections. Is it right?
Yeah, well, it's actually, there's an expression of 6 degrees of separation. We are 6 people away, often below that actually. And I think there's later on, when you look at your own networks, there are examples that Fred will use where to try and get to the mayor of London, for example, you know, how many contacts are there? There aren't that many for you to be able to have the mayor of London's ear. So yes, the number of people you need to get to someone, in my case, was 2 really at the BBC.
That's good news as well, isn't it, Hormos, that sometimes it's not that many. So maybe it's just 2 or 3, sometimes it's 1.
Yeah.
It really depends.
And it's just fun, this final point, just have the courage to go for it. What's the worst that can happen? They can say no. Okay, over to you, Fred, I believe.
I believe we're continuing with the collaborative mindset.
No, you're talking about types of partnership, no?
Oh, sorry, Hormos, I put those after the
okay, that's no
Sophia's
problem.
presentation.
No problem, no problem. Okay, so to be able to collaborate, we need to have, you know, a particular type of mindset. We talked about mindset quite a lot in the first workshop. And the first thing I've put there is competition. And one of the challenges we have, we're competitive beings on the whole, and is to try and get rid of that kind of mindset as much as we can. It's also part of the cultures we come from. I think there's a cultural point about needing to compete to get ahead. So it is something to address within us. So that's a really important one. Respecting values. We talked quite a lot about our own values within the first workshop and before it. Other people's values need to be aligned, but if there are differences, they need to be respected. Know what you're bringing to the table. What are your skills? What are your skills and attributes that you're bringing to the table? Be very aware of those, because what you're looking for quite often is a complement of the other skills that others will bring to the table. We really believe in difference, and that's where diversity works really well, is when you can celebrate difference and accept differences and not be challenged by the fact that they are different, but to embrace them. And the next one, we've said that in our coaching sessions quite early on. What are you aspiring to? Be specific, including your timeline. And I just said this a minute ago, be brave. Bravery is so important in this game. And that doesn't mean like being a hero or anything like that, but just, you know, once you've set your mind, go for it. Any questions there? Okay. Next slide, please.
I think we have the pleasure to hear from somebody who knows so much about this aspect of networking, isn't it, Hormos and Jane?
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's really, really a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the invite to be a partner of yours today. Well, good morning, everyone. Really, again, I obviously my name is Sophia. I'm the head of membership at Social Enterprise UK. For whoever doesn't know Social Enterprise UK, we are the membership body of social enterprises in the UK, and we are the biggest network of social enterprises in the UK. That's why I thought it was really good to be here to give you a little bit of a taste of what it means to join a network like Social Enterprise UK. Before I start my presentation, we had the pleasure, so I wanted to bring a couple of real life examples of people that have benefited from being part of the network. And one example will be given by Fred and Hormuts that created a partnership between Turn and Result CIC. But also we have with us, I've invited Pranav Chopra, who is connected with us today. He's the founder and director of Nemi Teas, who is a London-based tea company that provides meaningful employment opportunities to refugees. And I'd like to bring Pranav in just to give his examples of being a part, because I think it would be nice to start with a little story, and then I'll tell you a bit more about Social Enterprise UK, how you can access the network and how you can benefit from it. So Pranav, over to you, so we can free also your morning, and thank you so much for joining me. But yeah, over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Sophia. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'd love to share our story. So for those who don't know Nemi Teas is a London-based tea company and a social enterprise, and we provide training and employment opportunities to refugees living in Greater London. So that's the essence behind the business. But you know, we wouldn't be in the place we are today unless we had the support of Social Enterprise UK. Like, to be honest, it's been a game changer for us since we've worked with SE UK since the day we registered with them. And I think the biggest part they played was to really introduce us to the world of corporate clients. And that is something that's very, very difficult for small sort of businesses who are looking to win contracts with large players. So for us, we went through the SE UK, who are heavily involved in the Biosocial Corporate Challenge, as you are all aware. And through that, I guess one of the founding partners is PwC. So we got linked up with PwC and who we pitched our teas to for their offices. And that break we got through was because of SE UK and their program. And now obviously we're listed and supplying our teas to all their corporate offices, London, Birmingham, Manchester. And sort of that really helped us break into this whole food service catering world, which, to be honest, is very, very difficult as a new player. As you can imagine, especially teas, you know, it's Twinings, BG Tips and the likes. And it's very, very difficult industry to break in anyway. So to be honest, I can't thank SE UK enough. And obviously a lot of social enterprises do ask, you know, how do we break it into this space? You know, that's my simple answer, literally. Go hassle Sophia. She'll help you out. So yeah, that's us, Nemi Teas, and how, you know, and you know, that sort of simple beginnings from PwC and how it's helped us scale. You know, now we're supplying Anderson Young, SAP, NatWest, large corporates. You know, so it's that initial beginning that we got support in. So yeah, a big thanks again. And yeah, happy to basically share any links and contacts at a later stage.
Pranav, one thing that I wanted you to help the group maybe before you go, and thank you so much for being so kind. But I actually want to say, so share with the group the fact that when I started SE UK, it was like April, it was around 3 years ago, April 2019. I remember that the very first few events that we were running, I received Pranav at all the events. I don't even know how he did it. So everywhere I went, Pranav was there. And same with Nemi Teas, I would see the products everywhere. So basically, he didn't give people a chance not to know about what he was doing and the products that he was selling and the impact that he was having with his business. So I guess if we have like a quick tip, because obviously one of the main issue, if you want to call it an issue, is that obviously social entrepreneurs are very often really, really busy and they don't have the time to do everything, and networking takes a lot of time. Do you have any tips on how to maximize that really? Because again, amazingly, you were very good at creating connections, and also always be present. Any suggestion on how to best do that for the guys really here?
Sure, just forget sleeping, really. As in, you just have to be everywhere, to be honest, as much as you can. And to be honest, like, we're all sort of social enterprises, ethically driven. You know, for us, it's simple. The more tea we sell, the more refugees we can hire. So at the end of the day, if you are, you know, socially minded, that's going to drive you in itself. You know, especially early days, you've got to really develop that brand. And once that brand is being developed, then the brand talks for you, you know what I mean? And you have partners, and, you know, you have bodies like SE UK who sort of, you know, use us as role plays, you know, role models, sorry. And for example, today, you know, Sophia asked me to pop in, and I was like, I'd love to share our story and sort of support other social enterprises become more successful. So I think it's a really good community that I thrive on personally, and I'm pretty sure. Look, I think with the support of this community, I think we will all flourish, given sort of, I guess, the prevalence of social enterprises in the UK at the moment. So yeah, there's no easy trick, just hustle and persistence, really.
Thank you so much, Pranav. Yeah, and Nemity's opened a wonderful new cafe in Angel called Trampoline, which is amazing. We went to the opening, and it was very, very good, and the staff was amazing as well. So go and visit if you get a chance. Fred, sorry, did you want to jump in before Pranav goes, or?
Just, yes, thank you, Sophia. Just briefly to say, if the participants have any
Yep.
partnership related question, would it be okay, Pranav, if we asked that question to you?
Yeah, for sure.
Ruvi, your question is great, but would you mind if Pranav perhaps replies on chat afterwards, before he goes? It would be great to have partnerships related questions, guys, or networking related questions. Does anybody have such a question? If so, please unmute yourselves briefly to ask the question of Pranav. Marcel.
Good question. Yeah, I think when you come for what you're talking about how you just brought the model of helping refugees with actually commercial activities such as selling a product. What I'm seeing now on the website as well, the presentation, what I'm looking at is a very efficient commercial company that's coming with a corporate identity, that's providing product with a very nice design that attracts me. And I think what did you have to do to really balance your mandate of helping refugees with actually developing the right image in the corporate market? Because sometimes these two things don't align, the corporate world and then the charity world. So what did you do to make this kind of balance between the corporate identity that looks very competitive in the market, but as well keeping your mandate as a social enterprise?
No, look, that's a really good question. The thing is, and that's something that I've always, faced as a challenge myself. And this is pretty controversial, what I'm going to say, but honestly, the working from the social aspect won't get you far. It's the product is king, and the pricing, especially if you're dealing with a corporate space, and which is absolutely fine. Look, at the end of the day, you're a commercial outfit. You're out there for a commercial gain as well as creating social impact. So you should not be, this is my personal opinion, you should never just rely on your laurels of the work you're doing, the amazing work you're doing. That the social mission is something that you are passionate of, not PwC, not Ernst & Young. That, in my pitches, I only talk about product, price, and in the end, I'm like, hey, by the way, we also employ staff in our tea business, in our cafe, that sort of thing. So, and at the end of the day, even if you get in with the story and your product's not that great, clients like PwC will go, well, we don't want to serve your teas in a boardroom, so you will get out. They're going to delist you. That's with any product, any service. So, I think hone down on, I'm not sure of your business, but hone down on the actual product or the service that you provide. That needs to be second to none. And also why I say the price point. This is my belief again, have a really compelling price point that they cannot say no. So we've worked hard enough to have the price point same as Twinings. So now no company can go, well, we use Twinings because the price point, because I don't give them any excuse. So in all your businesses, I'd say the same thing. Just give them no excuses. But it is a tricky one because it's not the case in every sector. But those sort of little tips hopefully will help.
Almost.
This
Go on, Basil.
Yeah,
Carry
what
on.
I said is like this is really tricky because as a social enterprise, you create a value, and that value has to show in the product, because this is exactly why people decide to buy a product that's a little bit higher, but because it supports a cause. And I think you kind of playing with the margins with Twinnings, which is a big old like company that has a very competitive price. Yeah, this is really inspiring, but it's also difficult. Yeah, I mean, thank you for answering me.
No, my pleasure. Yeah, it is tricky, but scale gets impact. So we need to hit scale, and whatever you do, try and get scale. That again, that's my belief. And yeah, but it is different and difficult.
I think Hormuz, do you have a
Yeah,
question?
yeah.
I'm just Pranav, just let us know when you have to go. Yeah, there is not.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't want to keep you, and thank you for being here and for supporting us. But I don't want to keep you for too long.
No, it's absolutely fine.
Okay.
No, happy to help.
Thank you very much. Just on that last point you raised, Pranav, I think that's a really interesting one in terms of a lot of organizations, especially those big corporate PwC types, are looking at encouraging difference again and engaging with up and coming organizations like yours, compared to Twinings that has been used for many, many years. So I think it's that pitch which becomes really important, to be fresh, to come across as, you know, these points that you've raised of being very quality minded at the right price, etc., but also different. And I think difference is really bought really well. So it's something for these social entrepreneurs to think about. How am I different, and how can I show that? And also, very quickly, your point about your social value being really important to you and making sure it's happening is the key thing. What they think is their issue.
Exactly. If they believe in it, if they care about it, great. But as long as you stick to those business values, you'll go a long way, especially within the whole social enterprise sector, because the sector is such that they support each other. Yeah, that's what I've experienced. So yeah.
And to be fair, PwC, etc., are working very hard in terms of the social value aspect. So you're helping them to address that as well. So that comes into it. Thanks.
No, my pleasure.
Thank you, Pranav, for being here.
No
Does anyone else have any other question? Otherwise, we'll free Pranav to go and continue doing what he does best. Jane, sorry, do you want to come in?
There's a question in chat from Ravimbo. I don't know, Ravimbo, if you want to speak it. Do you want me to read it? Pranav, Ravimbo is asking about how structured or fluid was your approach to navigating growing your network? Was it a very structured thing, the stages of developing a network, or was it quite fluid? Good question.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, again, time is limited. So you got to pick the ones that, you're going to, I guess, get the most reach. But then again, you have to have an amazing team with you. And so you tackle, so I guess, spread it amongst your team and tackle it that way. But it is very important, especially early days. But then again, just continuously, really, I still do it till date. Attend as many events in person. Hopefully things come in shape again. But you have to be there. You have to be present. You need to tell people the story. And that's the whole key, right? That's the whole purpose that we set it up as. For us, we're sometimes we're not even a tea company. We're all about sort of, I guess, just educating people about the rights of refugees, because a lot of people don't know that they have the right to work here. Like it's crazy. So for us, sometimes, I forget they'll actually run a commercial business, which is absolutely fine, because that's why we're here. So
well, that's why you're running the business, isn't it?
Yep, exactly. So yeah, that's part of the ethos, right? So I think yeah, Jane, I think you have to be fluid as well. You know, if you just got to be, something comes up, hey, I'll take that opportunity to head down there. So yeah.
And I was
That
speaking.
was a question from Robin Bay, but that wasn't my question. Well, thank you very much for your full answer.
No worries.
Thank you. All right, I think we can, we can thank Pranav, and we can continue with the other session. So Pranav, thank you so much once again.
No
I think, Fred shared in the chat a couple of contacts, so LinkedIn profile and other social pages. But yeah, thank you so much for being here, for supporting us, and for sharing your story with the guys.
No, sure. My pleasure. All right. Thanks so much, guys. All right.
Thank you. Bye for now. Thank you. Right. And just to comment a little bit more, again, I wanted to start with that because I thought instead of like boring you with the CUK and bombarding you with the CUK information straight away, I thought it was a nice way of breaking the ice to have Pranav telling the story and bringing a live example. So, and also to comment on what he was saying and what Jane asked on behalf of Ruby. Yesterday, I was in another meeting and we were talking about the business plan and the business model and how you plan for the next 5 years. And I had a lot of entrepreneurs saying, having a business plan is very good because it gives you a sense of direction, but very rarely what you write down on day one then happens like a year later or 2 years later. So structure is good, but you always need to have the ability to adjust and be flexible on that. So that's just a comment that I can bring in from experience, but also from other people that always share that story. Right, so let me share my screen. And I'll start with my presentation. Can you see it in full screen? I think
yes.
You can. Perfect. Okay, great. Right. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of what a social enterprise UK community looks like in terms of numbers, because sometimes you feel, okay, well, the biggest network of social enterprise in the UK, what does that mean? So at the moment, we have a little over 3,000 members, so 3,164 to be precise. And our membership is split between social enterprises and supporters of social enterprises. We pride ourselves to be quite a varied network and to benefit by different kind of player, which is something very important considering the topic that we're talking about. 80% of our members, as you can see here, the wide majority are social enterprises. So the organizations that meet the globally recognized criteria to be defined as such. So organizations that have their social or environmental mission in the Articles of Association, organizations that are reinvesting at least 50% of their profit, that earn a majority of their revenue for trading, and they are owned in the interest of the social mission. Within this group of social enterprises, you will have the small startups that just incorporated. It could be someone like yourself, guys, that are, I know a couple of you already registered. Some people are thinking of registering. So you might be able to join if you wanted the moment you set up. So you'll be very new, but still very welcome. And also membership is free for these members. And we also have multi-million social enterprises that are really, really established and that obviously join the network, because no matter the stage where you find yourself, it's really important to be surrounded by peers and to continue networking, continue finding partners. So that's for social enterprises. Supporters, which is the 20% of our membership, are organizations that are, they're not obviously social enterprises, but they have an interest in supporting the sector because they really like the work of social enterprises. They want to buy from them, they want to partner with them, they want to support them to achieve their corporate social responsibilities goals. So very good partners potentially. And the corporates that Pranav was talking about are in this group. But also we have universities, we have housing associations, private sector organization of many different kind of types. So really good network, really varied network that you can tap into for whatever you need. This is a bit of a snapshot of what a CUK strategy looks like. And Fred or Lucas or whoever can help me on this, because obviously I know that we spent like 15 minutes talking to Pranav. Can you tell me how long I have so I don't go over time, because I don't exactly remember. So I just don't want to.
Sophia, I think we had allocated, just give me 1 second, what the minute marker was until we technically have till 10:40, so 17 minutes. But you know, if almost Jane, if you feel like we should extend by
no, it should be fine. These presentations should take 10 minutes, and then I'll like you guys to come in and give your example if that's okay. But yeah, I'll go. I know, so I'll go fast, but not too fast. So yeah, snapshot of a CUK strategy, just because I want to bring across the point of how the network works, but also what the network is, what the network's goals are, because it's quite important. We're not just a group of people that talk to each other and work towards the same goal. We have different kind of goals and objectives that we work all together to achieve. So members are at the center of everything we do. So those social enterprises especially are the key to a CUK strategy. And we want to support our members on a day-to-day basis. And I'll tell you a bit more about how we do that. Then we have the markets, which is that second layer that you see there. We not only want to support the members and connect them between each other, but also connect them to market, so opportunities, like Pranav said. And the third layer is about the evidence and influence. We work for the future of social enterprises, and I'll tell you a bit more how we do that. So talking about members, by joining Social Enterprise UK as a member, whether you are a free member, big member, if you meet the criteria of being to be defined as a social enterprise, you get certified as such by Social Enterprise UK, and you can use the badge. The badge is a powerful recognition of the work for good that you're doing. So that's number one, and obviously you'll be recognized by the peers and by also people outside the organizations. You get to be part of the biggest network of social enterprise in the UK, as we said, but the benefit is we can amplify your voice for you. So we're a very good partner to have, because we can promote your product, your services, your activities through our social media, through our website, our newsletter. And obviously we have a strong voice in the sector with other social enterprises, with supporters. So it's very beneficial to be in that kind of loop. You can also connect to other people using our forum. We are actually redesigning these to create a very nice social enterprise community hub, where people can actually find other social enterprises, supporters. They can start conversations, they can post events, and they can really talk about anything they need or they have doubts about. They can share their stories. It's really like an active and massive community, and this will be launched hopefully before summer. So stay tuned on that, but that's basically the online place to network. Physical events, those are starting a lot more. And by being a member of a CUK, you can attend all networking events. And if they are ticketed events, you get priority and also a discount. Those are the typical events that are really, really helpful to learn or to make connections. Usually CUK events help you on both fronts. The first time I met Pranav, it was at an event that SCUK hosted on the Buy Social Corporate Challenge, and it was at the House of Parliament. Lots of corporates there, lots of social enterprises, and you could see he would move. He would never spend like more than 10 minutes talking to the same person, so he would move everywhere all the time. And I'm sure of those like 150 connections, probably on that day, Hormuz, he made, I don't know, half of it. So very, very good and very, very helpful. Also, you can get involved in our local and national campaigns. The campaigns that SCUK runs are very, very helpful to create awareness around social enterprises. Not a lot of people know what social enterprise is, but we are aiming to change that through this work that we're doing. Also in this day-to-day support, and probably very, very important to you at the initial stage of your social enterprise journey, is resources, right? Things that you can use to learn, access to webinars. So we run different kind of webinars that are a mix between practical advice on finance, marketing, business planning, but also the inspirational one, interviews with other social enterprises. So things that you can access and that can help your business thrive. So they're all hosted and accessible to our members. This is quite important, perhaps to you. We created a series of and they are accessible also if you're not a member and incorporated yet. So for the people that aren't registered yet, you might benefiting from those. We created a series of events called social lunches. They're very informal events. We capped the number to 20 attendees because we want to facilitate networking and conversation around there. And then they are totally online around the room. And the topics are all about starting your social enterprises. Yesterday, we hosted one on defining your social or environmental mission, how to create a business model and a sustainable income strategy. We talk about funding, we talk about testing your market, choosing the legal structure, and so on. So I'll provide, Fred already has the slides, but maybe I'll add links to the social lunches and you can register and attend if you like. And they are hosted by Fiona Napier, who is our business consultant at Social Enterprise UK. She's got a very, an extensive knowledge. She used to run social enterprises herself. She's very experienced and she helps social enterprises in the beginning of their journey on a day-to-day basis. Also, Fiona offers a free one-to-one 1 hour conversation and consultation that you can access as well. I put Fiona's details at the end of the presentation, so you can access those as well and get in touch with her directly. Through our network, you can also access different kind of business support advice. We have free legal advice, but also HR and financial discounted services. So you can take a look at those. Members area, you can post offers in there, you can upload jobs, news, events. It's the typical package, obviously, when you are a member, and you can access the online platform of the organization. If we move to the market bit, so if we go back to the beginning strategy bit, obviously we talked about how we support the members on a day-to-day basis, how we connect them to each other. On top of connecting them between each other, we like to connect them to markets, and our work on markets focuses on business, on talent, and on local, 3 different kind of areas. And these 3 different areas, so first of all, in terms of business market, obviously, we know that social enterprises operate in every area of the economy, so our work in business markets reflect that. So we work with public sector, with private sector, and with consumers as well. So with public sector, obviously we include local authorities, CCGs, probation trust, and you will see that in your experience, very often, depending on the nature of your business, all these players are people that you're gonna have to make a connection with, especially if you have a physical shop, your local authority. It will be definitely an element that you're going to have to consider We work a lot with the private sector as well. Then that's what Pranav was referring to. We run the Bisocial Corporate Challenge, which is our flagship program that sees a group of corporates they are committed to spend £1 billion with social enterprises by integrating them within their supply chains, by buying from social enterprises. And this is like an amazing program that started 5 years ago. Fast forward 5 years, we have 30 corporates that work with us on a day-to-day basis to buy from social enterprises. Also with consumers, and this is something that you can find quite helpful to find other social enterprises and partners. So we created a Bisocial directory, which is like a Google for social enterprises, and all our social enterprise members get featured on the Bisocial directory, so that they can be found on there by other players. I want to show you a quick example of how you can use the directory, because you can search by product or service, by location, and also by social or environmental mission. So if I share my screen, let me just see here. So this is what the directory looks like. And here you see product or service. You can look for whatever you are looking for. Head office location, where a social enterprise is based, if you're looking for a social enterprise in a certain area, where the social enterprise operates, and also what's the social or environmental mission. So for example, basically you can find anything. So refugees and asylum seekers, for example, if you're working with them, you can use that button directly. Now, obviously, because I'm using it, it's not going to work. Oh yeah, there you go. So if you do that search, you are going to find a lot of social enterprises that, as a mission, work with refugees and asylum seekers. Those are the beneficiaries for them. So My Grateful, and again, you'll see where they operate, what they do, and also if you click on it, you're going to see a little bit more details: a map, an address, their website. And so if you're looking for partners because you want to partner with, or you want to learn from organizations that are doing something similar to what you're doing, you can use this tool to do that. Same thing if you're looking for a specific location, or if you're looking for, this is, for example, this is regarding the social mission, but you can search if you have a coffee business, you can look for businesses, for other coffee businesses, just to share their journey. Or if you think you want to partner, if you're a coffee business, you want to partner with another food business, you can look for that. So that's just an example. And there are a lot of social enterprises on here. You see Trampoline, for example, is the new cafe that Pranav created. And he already registered here because he knows there is important to be visible on this platform. So there you go. So just wanted to give you a little bit of a live example. And the link, it's very easy, it's directory.socialenterprise.org.uk. So let me jump back into that presentation. Okay. So yeah, I was talking about the connection to consumers. Another area of work that we do is around talent. So we want social enterprises to be the best employers that they can be. So we help them attract talent by hosting the biggest job board in the sector. We help them retain talent through inspirational videos, and also we help to inspire the leaders of social enterprises by different kind of events. The battle for talent, yeah, it's quite hard, especially these days. And for social enterprises, there are no exceptions. So it's really important piece of work. And then also local. I don't know where you guys are all based, but we have pockets of support around the country. We have around 30 places where we have leaders based in each place. And this leader acts as an ambassador of SEUK, is an expert in the local sector. And every time we have members joining from that particular area, we can connect them to this person that automatically can create connections for them locally. It's very important because at least 35% of the business that is won by social enterprises is won locally. So it's important to have that kind of local support. And then the last bit, so which is going to be the third layer of the original strategy wheel, is around the evidence and influence. As I mentioned at the beginning, we not only want to support our members in the here and now, we want to create a thriving environment for social enterprises to operate in the future. So we are working for you guys. So in 5-10 years, the business scene is going to be a lot better for you. And we do that by lobbying government. We have a director of external affairs that is in constant dialogue with government to ensure that the rights of social enterprises are taken into consideration. And also we have a director of research that creates the evidence base for the social enterprises to make their case with local or national government. So that's what the network is about in a nutshell. I'll take questions in a second, but I wanted to finish with this like quick tips list that can help you. So that can help you with a few things and just getting a little bit familiarized with the network. So you can sign up even if you are not incorporated yet, but you want to start reading what the sector is about and what the network is about. You can sign up to our newsletter. I'll put the link there, but it's easy to find also on Social Enterprise UK homepage. You can schedule a free 1-hour consultation with Fiona Napier, our business consultant that I mentioned earlier. And here is her email address. You can just say that you heard about her from Sophia. Yeah, if you become a member, you need to make sure that your profile is up to date on the BioSocial directory. Access all our resources, webinars and social lunches. And then obviously, if you know other social entrepreneurs, invite them to join, because it's that kind of ripple effect that will help us thrive as a community of social entrepreneurs. If you have any question, I put there the general email address, but I'm sure Fred will be able to share my personal email address as well. So I want to thank you, because I really, really, really believe that social enterprises are our best chance of creating a better world. And thank you for the work that you're doing, because you are really the center of these activities. So thank you for having the courage to start a business. I know it's not an easy thing to do, but yeah, anything you might need, I'm here. And yeah, the network will help you, and I'll be very happy to support as well. I think yes, I know we are 10:40, Fred, but yeah, if you guys want to, well, do you want to take questions, or do you want to share your experience? You tell me what's best.
Almost, Jane. I'm sure we can make a couple of minutes for questions. What do you think? Sounds like a plan. Who's got questions for Sophia? There was the usual question, Sophia, from Basil, actually, as to whether pre-registration you can already register or not.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we don't take unincorporated social enterprises at the moment, because it's very difficult. We want to ensure, because of the certification, we want to ensure that we are able to perform the due diligence on the criteria. And one of the criteria, obviously, is having a social or environmental mission written in the articles of associations. If you're not registered, obviously we can't check that, because you don't have articles of association. So to ensure that, yeah, we only accept as fully certified members the incorporated social enterprises. So yeah, we can help you set up if that's what you want to do as well.
Thanks, Sophia. And we also offer the friends here the support through the Spark service in Ideas into Action, where they get support in reviewing the application. Mariam just rejoined, actually. I imagine she just did her exam, which she had to go to for a moment. Power is not just coming through the exam, but also because she registered successfully her community interest company. So in the first workshop, we had Mariam telling us that she had her first application rejected because of formalities, and then she got it done. So she got it done 2 weeks later. So it was just corrected. And so that's the thing, like, it's very much doable. In the cohort, one registration has already happened during the program in the last few weeks. So let's crack on. Use Spark, or in fact, even reach out to Sophia and her team.
Yeah.
You've now got the contact details, and they're very kind and helpful. So hopefully that answers your question. Who else has got questions for Sophia? You can also unmute yourselves. Let's see if there were other questions for Sophia that came through.
Sorry, I'm not really following the chat.
No problem, Sophia. We will look at it for you. But to be honest, it's probably easier if you guys unmute yourselves. So Amjad, Abid, AJ, Yara, Ruvi, Ravi, all of you are welcome to ask questions. Mariam as well, now that you're back with us.
And just to double confirm, Sophia, people can access the directory even if they're not registered?
They can search the
Companies?
directory if
Yeah, they
they're
can.
not registered.
Yeah.
They can be featured if they're not members. So
That's
you
it. Perfect.
have a profile if you are a member, but it's searchable by anyone. So yeah, they can still use it to search.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And one thing that I always say, I forgot to mention, but as anything, I would say, like Hormuz and Jane, for example, Jane wrote an interesting comment earlier in the chat saying, have a go, ask for that coffee, or never turn down a coffee invitation. Even if you're scared about it, I think those are the best opportunities. And I can tell you that the members of SCUK, even the smallest members, obviously we are at SCUK, we are a small team. So we don't have the opportunity to have one-to-one connections to every single of the more than 3,000 members. But the one that benefit more from the network are the ones that always reach out. So never feel shy to reach out and ask a question, or ask, can you introduce me to X, Y, and Z, or can I come along to these, or can you help me with this question? So yeah, that's being proactive is definitely one big piece of advice.
Okay, any last questions for Sophia? You have Sophia here. You don't have her here all the time. Don't squander this opportunity. Ask questions, please.
I'll be around for a little longer. Fred, maybe you want to share your story with Hormuz and Jane.
Sure,
And,
that's a good idea, Sophia. Maybe you can then respond on the chat. We appreciate your time and all the SE UK support. Guys, it's good to hear about it, but it's all the more better to make use of it. And that's what makes the difference, right? So listening is not enough. Doing is essential for this to be helpful. So look at the directory, look at the registration process. If you're registered already as an organization, it will be quite quick to get membership with SE UK. So it's really a no-brainer. Thanks, Sophia, for your time. And yes, if you guys have more questions, please ask on the chat. Thanks, Sophia. And for now, have a good day already, we will say.
Yeah, I'll be here for a little longer, Fred, so don't worry.
Thanks, Sophia. Okay, friends. Well, this is now going to be a little joint story of how we as Turn Results CIC came to partner up, and how that also was facilitated through, of course, Social Enterprise UK. So that's exciting, isn't it? I'm just going to check quickly that you can see my screen. Is that all okay now?
Yeah, looks good, Fred.
Thanks, Lucas. So before we start telling our story, something we want to help you cement in your mind is the idea of a win-win-win, the triple win. Maybe you've heard about a win-win, quite a classic business term. Both parties involved in a collaboration or a partnership or a deal need to get something out of it. It needs to be fair. But what is a win-win-win? Anybody wants to quickly say on the chat, what is the third win? If you win and your partner organization wins, who is the third party that wins in a good partnership for a social enterprise or nonprofit?
Maybe community or customers?
Yeah, absolutely. Seems like you all jumped to that conclusion, and that's correct. Yeah, us, you and the beneficiaries or customers or community, however you want to call the people you serve, you're right. They'll be the ones to win because you'll be better at what you do if you have the right partners, and if your partnerships are user-centric or customer-centric. So you are serving a particular group of people, and their experience with you, the benefits they get from you, will be better if you have the right partners around. Quite logical, right? So in case of the win-win-win for the partnership between Results, CIC, and Turn, maybe it's relatively obvious. Without this partnership, there would not be any Ideas into Action program, so we wouldn't be sitting here. So you guys are already winning in that sense, I hope. There are other things that you can only get because of Results CIC's involvement in the program, things like the comprehensive support, the coaching support, and that personalized view in the coaching, but also the fact that Jane and Hormos have different lived experiences that are really relevant and should be encouraging to you. And as you've heard also in the kickoff workshop, and I think that will also carry through your entire experience. Also, because we work together, we have more people on hand that are doing different things rather than all having to do the same thing. And that means you get a slightly more flexible experience because there's more people who are bookable in a very easy way. That's why we have Spark, your coaching sessions, and such in a flexible way, rather than, you know, just a few people delivering it with more time constraints. I would ask Jane and Hormos to comment on the second part, the wins for Results CIC as an organization, as a social business. I'll just bring these three up. Would you like to speak to that?
Jane, do you want to go? Are you off mute? Oh no, can't hear you. Okay, I'll go. So obviously one of our aspects in terms of our focus was to reach more people, and partnerships allow you to do that because it's a combination of skills we talked about. Now, interestingly, the funding for this whole program was achieved by us, as mentioned before to you, by talking to the lottery and presenting the benefits of this partnership. The partnerships area of the lottery were very keen in terms of how holistic this approach was for all of you, in terms of the combination of what we bring into it. But also the second point about funding is Turn have a focus in terms of the crowdfunding and much funding, etc., that we generally don't with the programs that we do. So that's a big win for us to be able to partner with Turn, and also the Spark area that they operate. Such important support for you, not just in terms of logistics, but also in terms of advice for business plans, advice for the sort of to do with the bringing the organization together, etc. So it is a win-win-win for us because of that. Over to you, Fred.
Thanks, Hormos. And for us, it's similar. We can rely on coaching capabilities and experience that we don't have. We have some wonderful coaches, but Lucas, to you and your team members, that's no offense, but Jane and Hormos have many, many, many years of coaching experience, and that is so valuable, and we can learn from that. You can learn from that, Lucas. Your team members will learn through you what you learn from Jane and Hormos, but also you as beneficiaries or as learners in the program, participants, you will actually benefit from that the most. And we were really happy with that. We were able to reach also a new audience. So Yara, Amjad, Basel, in particular, Abed, you were not previously participants of Turn. Yet, because we were able to put ideas into action out there, we were able to meet you. So that's really powerful. Whereas AJ, Ravi, Noor, and Mariam, you guys, you were already term beneficiaries, but we were able to offer you something new on top of what you had already experienced. So we were really happy to get new people in, reach new people also in other places. It really mattered to us. But had we not had the courage to put this program together, and which we couldn't have done without each other's support, we would have never met you, I imagine, or wouldn't have met you until much later. So I'm really happy that that's possible. And yeah, funding, as you said, like we're able to also, and Jane will come to you in a second, funding, we also were able to, you know, justify some of our time in working with social enterprises, which is something I've been wanting to do for 5 years. But finally, we were able to dedicate some funding directly to that and resourcing this well. So that is also really powerful. And hopefully the funding will get to you too through the crowdfunding campaigns. Jane, did you have further comments? It seems like we can't hear you, Jane, for some reason. Would you mind writing your comment on the chat box? Okay, I'm not sure if somebody could help us figure out that we get Jane's audio back. Jane, is it maybe your audio setting or something? Like your device setting as to what microphone is being picked up?
I think she will use
Should use the chat.
chat.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. Well, this is also the time we wanted to take the break. I think, Jane, unless we had other comments, if Homos, if you could just write that, or Lucas for Jane. I think we wanted to take a 10-minute break. And so we would like to welcome you back at 11:03. Yeah, so let's be back in front of our screens in 10 minutes, take a nice little stretch, get a little hot drink or whatever makes you feel good, and think about something that isn't your business for just a second, and just enjoy the day for 10 minutes, enjoy something else, and we'll find each other here again. Then we'll hear more about partnerships and we'll get active. We'll go into breakouts shortly thereafter to start planning your partnerships and network activities. Okay, that will be really exciting. So see you in 10 minutes.
Fred, can I ask you a question? Well,
yes, Sophia.
Right. Is there anything you're doing on social media that we can reshare? Because my comms department are asking me. I don't know if you or Lucas are doing any tweets or anything else that
absolutely. The participants can probably go on break already, I imagine, and Sophia, we can have a little chat. So guys, feel free to come back in just 9 minutes now. Don't wait around here, don't listen to me, just have a break. Jane, Homos, hopefully you can hear me now. Jane, can you hear me or see the lip and facilitation? Jane, can we hear you now? Let's find out.
Yeah, I think Jane has fixed her issue with her microphone.
Super. Lucas, there's a link under the slide. If you don't mind posting that in the chat box, much appreciated. Friends, we'd love your comments on a question. Homos, I think before we go into individual breakouts shortly, we wanted to do one collective discussion as to what people are facing as barriers to partnerships or networks at the moment. We have a little link where we all have a little message board, but then we also have our microphones, so we can also have a conversation. We'll be checking out the little comments board that Lucas just posted. In fact, I'll switch there now. Let me just quickly share my screen. to that. Just a second. But in the meantime, you can also unmute yourselves and share. This is a forum where we are all supportive of each other, so it's also okay to say when something isn't so easy. Let's see if somebody has comments. You can also make the comments on that little message board.
Should I go first?
Yeah, sure.
So I just want to confirm that the question is, what is the barrier for the partnership? Yeah.
Yes.
I would say, yeah, for the last few days, I have got a lot of maybe, not, I wouldn't say offers, but, you know, questions regarding to if I would be a possible partner for few businesses. The big issue that I have at this stage is the distance.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you know, London is really huge. So a lot of people live in different areas and very difficult to find somewhere to be, you know, I would say in the middle so we can all meet together. So one of them lives in Croydon. He wanted to, he's starting community coffee shop and this kind of things, but it's very far from the area where I live and where I'm planning to start my business. And another one lives very far. So I think for me, the distance is big issue, the venue, I mean, yeah.
That's a huge one. I imagine also that in Scotland, for example, distances can also be quite big, even though that might not just be about a single city at that point. And nor when you listen to the recording on Jersey, I'm not sure how it is there, but in London, it's really multiple city in one, isn't it, Mariam? Yeah, and sometimes you have what seems like the perfect people at the nearly the right time, but not in the right place, which matters. Yeah, and that's okay too. Sometimes you then have a party that is the template for who you need to find with perhaps hard work in your locale where you are. It might take a bit longer and you might feel, oh no, this is just there on a silver platter, but it's not the dish you can eat. So you have to find it elsewhere. It's hard sometimes, but I understand you. Yeah, thanks for sharing.
I like that imagery, Fred, that you create with dishes and things to eat. But I think that the tiny thing to add there, Jane mentioned in chat earlier, is persistence. You know, as Fred says, the timing isn't always quite right, but it is the fact that you know what you exactly want and need, and just the final thing of finding it in the local area you want to. Persistence.
That is definitely a skill, Homos, isn't it? To navigate your sphere, and the fact that the internet-based communication became so important over the last 2 years doesn't change the fact that now that you want to launch your social projects, location might matter. We had a question as well, or a comment on the message board, which said knowledge of regulations and access to information. Who made the comment? Would you like to just briefly explain?
Yeah, that was me. What I meant, I think what I understand from the question is what barriers are there for me to reach out to people who I want to reach out. And I think the problem is a lot of times, and I've learned this by being like here for a couple of, I don't know, like weeks now, is like, sometimes I don't know where to look. I don't know who is the perfect person for me. And my personal experience is when I was, you know, the first job I got, you know, in marketing, and I had to reach out to people. And every time I reach and I establish a productive partnership, I realize, oh, this is just an assistant. They're not a decision maker. I just can't really go through the layers and layers of bureaucracy to reach to the person that I want. And I think now with, like, for example, with the Social Enterprise UK, with this navigation tool on the website, I just realized, like, just the example you used, the mic, like the the migratude. It's like, this is just an example we found on the website that's like support refugees in the food and catering and provide venues. So like how, if you have access to this information and people to connect you, then I think you can save a lot of time by just like going straight to the point. It's like being like, okay, this is what I have and this is what I want. And then the win-win-win situation maybe can be initiated. So
Totally, Bassel.
that's
That's
why I
such a
want-
good point. Yeah, getting through, you don't want to get stuck in the customer service loop, you know. If it's social enterprises, maybe the organization is not so big that you have a massive service department that keeps the management staff away from connections until a later point, until information is trickled up. But if you look who in your network already knows the stakeholders a few steps higher up, you don't always have to speak to the CEO or the managing director or somebody like that. The perfect person might well be somebody in junior or middle management, because they might be working in a domain like partnerships, or they might be the account holders of things like premises or such. So that is one side of the story. On the other hand, of course, introductions help you jump a few layers up into an organization. So for example, with MyGrateful that Sophia mentioned in the member directory that I think you mentioned a moment ago, we know them well. We even partnered with them on a program. So it's about, you know, check who you know that might know somebody, and we'll talk a bit more about that later. Thanks, Bassel. Appreciate you. Okay. Should we field more questions, Hormos and Jane, or comments, or should we move on to the next part? What do you think?
It's all to do with your timing with the breakout rooms.
Yes.
I think,
So
I've got
I think maybe
a few more things to cover as well, haven't you, before we do
yeah,
that?
that's just
Yeah.
just two quick things I wanted to show
Yeah.
you guys, which I hope will help. Let's do that then. Thanks. And if you have more comments, we hope to come back to those in the chat or soon. Let me just reshare my screen. So I just wanted to summarize what a good partner can do for you. Now we talked about the win-win-win, we know about that. Hopefully you can once again see my screen. Good partners should make your work, and you should make their work, for example, faster. Faster is not always better, but sometimes, you know, it takes a long time, doesn't it, to do certain things if you do them on your own. And it can be good to do them faster. Bigger, all these ambitious statements, but of course, you know, people like Pranav talked about scale and how important it is sometimes to reach a certain amount of activity if that is necessary to benefit the community. But that's heavy lifting on your own. Big is heavy, so distribute that over multiple shoulders. Partners might have the assets and resources that helps you reach more people, create more products in the same amount of time, have simply a bigger presence, or do more without more effort. That's the key thing. Without more effort from you, but perhaps with equal effort from them. Easier. Your life should become easier. There's a lot of things that are very technical that you can learn, and it might even be fun to learn. And I'm not saying don't learn them, but there may be some which take a long time to learn, and where it is not necessarily your personal long-term plan to be super proficient in something specific. Like imagine it's like coding, or imagine it's a specific part of a process in your production or service delivery. Maybe it's a methodology, you know, maybe you want to work with people who work in recycling at a particular step, and you feel like you want to learn it to a degree, but not all the way, and somebody else does it already well. It would make your life easier if you found the right partner who already has the expertise, and find a way of creating that win-win between you. That should make your life so much easier. Cheaper. It can be cheaper. It can also be more expensive to work with partners. It kind of depends. If you do more, of course, it isn't like everything gets automatically cheaper, but it can be very costly to take everything into your own hands, because you might not have all the expertise or the resources, and it might cost a lot to acquire things up front. Imagine a partner has equipment or has premises, and they can give them to you at a fraction of the cost if you do a joint venture in those premises or using those equipments, rather than you having to pay the full bill. That's just one example how joining forces can be really good. We've talked about it making things better for users, and we think partnerships make things more sustainable. For example, Ideas into Action as a program is now in its first edition. You're the pioneers, but hopefully there'll be 2 more or even more editions after that. But we've kind of got pre-secured funding, hopefully, for the next 2 years after this one. And that wouldn't be possible if we didn't have partners. So it wouldn't be possible without Results CIC and their relationship also with the lottery. But I think it's also that the lottery trusts our partnership more even than they trust us individually, which isn't saying anything negative about us individually, but it's just they understand the strength of partnerships, which is why the fund that we applied for is called the Partnerships Fund. So, you know, those kinds of funding opportunities exist, and hopefully if you apply for funding together with partners, it will make your joint endeavor more sustainable. Homos, you had a comment?
Well, I was just totally agreeing with you that point about the strength of partnerships and how they're seen by funders, by others who would back you. You know, it is really understanding that the 2 or 3 organizations coming together makes it a compelling approach for the people that you're working with. And as Fred was just saying, this is the pilot. You are the people who will be champions, hopefully, in terms of taking it forward to 2 more years of delivery of this program, which will be bigger next year and even bigger the year after that. And Basil's points about partnerships reducing the risk factors, really good point, Basil. Very much so. It means that they know that it depends who is partnering, of course, but in the feedback that they gave us, they said that they really respected the organizations that were coming together individually, and then of course in the partnership. That's the end of my point there, Fred. Thank you.
Thank you, Homos. In terms of one key thing we want to give you before we go into our wonderful activity breakouts, we wanted to mention a few types of partnerships. Sometimes it helps starting to segment things in your mind. Of course, you could go even broader and more detailed in your definitions, but we thought we can start with this framework here. Volunteering and pro bono partners. So partners who help you find talent that comes in as volunteers or pro bono. So it might be professional services. Sometimes the word is used in kind instead of pro bono, where normally they charge clients for it, but because of your social mission, they give it to you at a low cost or for free. So there's even pro bono, which is completely free, or low bono, which is very cheap compared to the official rate. For example, we used to get pro bono premises, and we were rent-free for a long time, and now we have 11 team members full-time, and now we're getting our offices low bono, 80% off. So we're paying 20% of the normal rent because of our social mission. It's just an example. But volunteering and pro bono partners are often about talent. They're often about people spending their time with you at low cost or free of charge and giving you expertise. We'll come back to that at the end of the workshop. Community and referrals. For Turn, this is essential, for example. Maybe also for Results CIC, to meet people like yourselves, we need to have lots of partnerships with community organizations and networks. So we wouldn't have met you guys if it wasn't for referral partners at some point, whether it's those who had previously partaken in Turn or whether it's those who heard about Turn and Result CIC for the first time, we try to, reach out through partners who have networks into the community. And you might need this too. You might need that for referrals to actually reach your beneficiaries beyond those in your personal network. Expertise and training. Sometimes it's with a partner, it's not just about them spending time with you continuously to run what you do, but rather it's about capacity building, giving you training and expertise so that you and your team, say whether it's employees, co-founders, or volunteers, for them to have the skills to go forward. So sometimes you have partners who train you, okay? And they might do that at a fee, or they might do it free of charge, depending on the relationship. In that case, you might be able to run things without them going forward, but they might come back if you have another training need as your organization grows. Space and equipment. I mentioned some of that already. If you have a technical need, a space need for delivering your production or your events, for example, then you might find a partner who believes in what you do and helps you out with low cost or even free access to such things. And with equipment, it's also sometimes about setting things up properly and helping you with that setup. Product, supply chain, and logistics partners, people, organizations that partner with you that take care of a certain part of your production. Some really cool social enterprises work with producers in other places, and they label and market a product that somebody else has produced. I mean, it's not like Pranav and his team have to collect the tea from the fields, right? So they have a partner. Or Usman Khalid, one of our community members, sources his coffee from a company called Crew Cafe. And they've been doing that for years now, and they're partnering, and they have joint values, and it kind of fits. The same could be true if you're a service provider rather than a producer. If you want to run public cultural events, you might want to partner with a events agency or a company like Time Out in London to actually promote your events, or as such an equivalent in Scotland or in Jersey in your city. So it's not just about production, supply chain and logistics, making things easier for you by working with people who already do these kinds of things, and you concentrating on what you do uniquely to further your mission, to deliver your products and services and your message. That is then the key. And the last one I wanted to share with you, marketing and advocacy. There's partners who have big networks to the public, to funders, to people who might be interested in your idea and who might be crowdfunding supporters, followers, people that engage with your beneficiaries / customers. All of those things might matter. So what we've done is in the Miro boards that we've shared with you this morning, your individual Miro boards, these partner categories are represented. I will briefly say that we are going into the breakouts and then working on the following topics. You can now finally get started. What type of partners do you need is the first question that you might want to ask yourself. Identifying one organization at least for each need that you have to fit this role of a partner. So that means also thinking through who might be available that fills the need for a partner that you have. And also starting to think what the win-win-win could be in this particular configuration. Now, we will be working between 45 and 50 minutes now in the breakout, and Lucas has prepared the breakout rooms in such a way that each one of you is with either Hormos, Jane, or myself, and Lucas will also be there with me in my room. And the idea is for you to work through the activities on the Miro board in a way where you input directly what you think. You can do a bit of quiet research, but you can also speak to the moderator in your room to ask clarification questions. And the others who don't necessarily have the same question as the person who's speaking up or asking a question can just keep working and progressing. We do have some bonus activities in the Miro board, which are further along on the right-hand side. And they're more about networking, where you can start thinking, who are the people around you that you already know that could be useful to your partnerships and networking. Then also, who are the people that you think you need to meet, and who are the people who will actually connect you with other people. So those three things are also available on the board. So depending on your own speed, you can go as fast as you want, and you can ask questions of the moderators anytime. Thanks, Sophia. Also, we know you have to go now, so we appreciate your time and your presentation today. Thank you from everyone, or on behalf of everyone, and have a good day. So Lucas, if we're ready to go, and Hormuz and Jane, if you're happy with going into the rooms without me walking through the Miro board, then we can launch. Hormuz, Jane, would you prefer me to walk through the Miro board one more time, or would you be happy to explain to the participants how they can input things in your room? What's your preference?
If you can do a very quick explanation of the Miro board, because I don't think everybody has seen a Miro board before.
Yes.
Just a quick intro, and we will take it from there. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So guys, we've shared with you individual Miro boards. I hope you can now see this one. With your computer, you should be able to zoom in and out. This is an interactive board. Imagine you had a whiteboard in front of you, or brown paper in the classic workshops, but now it's online. Some of you might have used this software before. If you zoom out like this, I'm using Ravi's as an example, sorry, Ravi. Then you can see that we have different activities planned, but for now, you just want to go here to partnerships and networking. And the first thing you have here is your partnership needs. Like I said, you can go and start with your partner need. If you zoom in here, you have these little boxes, and you could say, oh, I want a expertise training partner, and you can drag it into this box. Yeah, what is my partnership need? Well, expertise and training. You can describe that further. You can explain by double clicking on this box here and writing in. Ravi, with your permission, I'll just demonstrate here for a second, and I'll then delete it. I need a specialist in 3D printing. Okay, so this person could teach me how to do it. Okay, that's quite simplistic, but that is a starting point. You can then think about who might fulfill this need. Yeah, who are the partners who could fulfill this need for this first one here? Yeah, and describe that in this box. So you can double click here, and you can describe the win-win-win. If you feel like you have enough thinking around that already, then you can start writing the win for your users / your customers, the win for yourself, and the win for the partner. If you have enough time, you can do that for multiple categories, and you could even use categories that are not reflected here, right? So you're not restricted to it, it's just a framework. And then you keep doing the same exercise. Who could fulfill these needs, and what is your win-win-win with these particular partners against this particular need? So start with the need. What do you need? What will make you better? And go from there. If you then have time, because you're so fast, then you can go into this activity during the same breakout. What are your networking opportunities? First, add below helpful people that you already know. So you can list on the left-hand side potential partners. So it could be individuals or organization. You can type here into any of these little nodes. Yeah, you can double click and type. Or potentially people who are good introducers and connectors, people who are well networked in the networks relevant to your social business, okay? So you can enter them on the right-hand side. And then people and organizations that you want to meet but don't know yet. So here you can enter who you want to meet in these yellow fields. replace that with an organization name, for example. And here you can replace this bit, whether you will get in touch directly or whether you will get an introduction from someone, right? As we know the power of introductions. If you still have time left, you could talk a little bit and input in this field: events, groups, networks, and places where you can meet people, event meetups, places and spaces, online networks and groups, and in-person networks and groups where you can meet people relevant to your social business, okay? Here you can just double click on these little post-its and replace the text with the name of an event, a meetup, a place, a space, an online group, or an in-person network, okay? Now, that might seem like a lot for 45 to 50 minutes, and that is true, which is also why you can carry on with whatever you haven't done after the workshop. This is yours, right? So you can work on it anytime.
Fred, thank you so much for taking everyone through the different parts of the board, in effect. But the thing to emphasize is that the way that it's going to work is for each individual to spend around 15 minutes to just do as much as they can on their board, and then spend some time to share what they've said. So that's learning from each other. That's correct, isn't it? So
that works well,
Hormos, around that. Okay.
Absolutely, Hormos. And if you guys are quick to share and it doesn't take, like say, more than half an hour to complete the first bit and share, you can carry on and see if you have more time to share or just to carry on with the activities. So what we'll do is we'll open the breakout rooms now and we'll come back between 12:15 and 12:20. Okay. Then we will take a little break, and then we will finish with just a few tips. And that'll be probably it for today. In terms of the breakouts, if you do have any problems with your Miro boards, do ask your moderator. And Hormos, Jane, if there's any more problems than that with the Miro boards, feel free to call Lucas into the room by sending a WhatsApp message to him. Lucas, if you could help with that, that would be much appreciated. Okay, enjoy. We'll be going into these little breakouts. There'll be like 2 to 3 of you and one moderator. Enjoy and see you later. Hopefully that didn't feel too abrupt, and we know there's always more to do. We hope we didn't interrupt your discussions too much. Hopefully you had a productive session. It looks like the boards are filling with life and ideas. And hopefully you see the purpose of this activity is all about being strategic. Yes, we heard from Sophia and Pranav, not everything goes to plan, but it's good to be structured and also go with the flow, go with who you meet. Hopefully you can continue with the activities that you didn't complete today. And it's not really just about activities. The activities are just a conduit to the things that you really want to do. So the fact that we made a template is not meant to constrain you. You can go above and beyond what you see there. And the key thing is, of course, don't leave it on the virtual paper. Reach out to those parties or to your coach or to Spark. To find out how you might get additional support to prepare for such partnerships. Hormos, it seems like you might have a comment as well.
Oh, it was just a very quick one. As my group was saying that how useful it was to be able to just focus on it and put everything down, because quite a lot of these ideas have been up here And this is a very good tool to just put it all down and start focusing on it step by step.
Lovely, thank you, Hormos. And you guys can expand on the Miro board. We will actually add additional activities probably in the future on there. Basel had, I think, requested some, well, not requested, but he had explained that he was doing a certain planning activity, and we have another template elsewhere that we could put on his Miro board. So the point is, do not hesitate to ask for help or for cool tools and things that might be useful. We might just have something in our bag of tricks. And the same is true for partners, right? Ask for help, ask for partnerships. So we wanted to take a 5-minute break that will then leave us with 20 minutes, which means that whilst we will be able to give you some insights into how to recruit volunteers, you will then have to do your activity around that topic on your own time. Maybe you have another 25 minutes today to carry that out. So I think that's how we're going to roll after a 5-minute break. Okay, so thanks for all partaking vividly in the activity. Let's take a mini break and be back at 25 past, okay? Short breaks, but those are important too. And the marathon continues. What we want to talk about now is volunteering, because it's not just about partners, it's also about people that are really close to you in your projects and who you work with. I'm going to jump straight to that topic. If you then have time left, I will still tell you a little bit more about how to reach out to partners and such, but for now, let's start with the topic of volunteering. So this graphic here might feel familiar. Sometimes we are trying to tear down the walls in front of us and we need a little help from our friends, right? Because we don't always get to do that on our own. It might be harder. And you might be surprised. There might be a lot of people with the same exact experience as you when it comes to barriers that you faced. Of course, you're a unique individual, but still, when it comes to the exact issues you have faced or your community has faced, you might just find there's a lot of people out there who have similar objectives like you to change the same issues. And why not work together if you share values and a common goal, a cause, or a mission? Why not get to know them? That's certainly what happened with myself, with my Turn co-founders, and also with many of our volunteers that helped us at the beginning. And certainly still today, we are a very volunteer-centric organization. We moved on from operational volunteers, and it's all about delivery volunteers now. So it's all about bringing talent in front of our community. So bringing qualified mentors with lots of experience into our programs and services, and they all volunteer their time, and our entire model relies on it. So without volunteers, there would be no Turn. I imagine Hormos and Jane that finding people who are on the same cause and share values with you was also really important. Feel free to come live to also share any volunteer stories that you would like to share as an example, whether it's right now or a little bit later. Just put your hand up or just unmute yourselves. So volunteers can do a lot, and they are not, you know, to be reduced to free labor. That's not what it's about. If you work well with volunteers, you work in a compliant way, in a respectful way, and you actually both benefit. It's another win-win. People get to fulfill their personal ambitions, to grow, to learn, and also to fulfill their purpose, at least their volunteering purpose, if you have the right connection. So volunteering can be really awesome if done well. What about you? Do you think you'll create a volunteer team? Who would be the people? It doesn't have to be 30 or 40 or 100. It could be 2, it could be 1, it could be 10, it could be 5 to begin with. And what would they do? What would they do? are you clear in your mind what roles there are in your organization that you're setting up that volunteers could fulfill? Basel has a comment, I think. Basel, feel free to share.
I think my story is I managed to get 12 people to work with me for 1 year without ever like investing anything besides time and gratitude for them. And I think 2 important things that I learned that I had to do is, so I started with them just asking them to do random stuff, and then after 3 months I went ahead and I did an org chart of the project and I assigned roles, and I said, this is the media and communication officer, this is kind of like, you know, the engagement officer, this is the membership officer. And once I did that, it seems like they've got kind of like ownership of this role. And then after owning this role, I started crediting them in public for the work they're doing. So they kind of like were very visible to the followers, and they had their own corner in the place. And I think this mindset kind of, until now, I still do 10% of the job, and they are there around the clock just moderating. I don't need to follow up because they feel like they own this project as much as I do.
Amazing. I mean, wow, that's a really advanced way of using volunteers or working with volunteers and providing a setup that I love what you said. You give them credit. They have a place. They have clarity. They have a role. And ultimately, I guess that gives them a lot of satisfaction. And who knows, if you professionalize your organization to the degree where you have funding secured or more funding secured, maybe some of them would be people you would want to hire, right? Because I guess they've proven themselves. So that's also an opportunity sometimes. Not every volunteer wants that, by the way, right? Not everybody wants to increase the time they spend. Basel, that's an amazing story. Is there anybody else who wants to quickly share a volunteering story? If so, feel free to comment. Otherwise, I'll keep moving. Let's see on the chat box as well. Yes, that's a comment from Jane. Thank you. Super. Yeah, we can learn from Basel for sure, and keep sharing those kinds of experiences, guys. So we need to think, what kind of volunteers do you need? Just like with the partners, there's perhaps some categories of volunteers. Maybe it helps you structure your thinking. There are for sure people who will directly be involved with the delivery of your practice. So community engagement, event volunteers, people who practice the work that you want to do. If it's production, because you want to create a product, that's an opportunity too in this regard for volunteers to get engaged. There's people who will have to help you publicize the work that you do. Marketing and communications, it's a classic role, but it's an important role. People with a technical specialist skill set, could be somebody who's in charge of something that you need to do, but you really don't know how to do, and that doesn't take forever if a person is very skilled. So it could be making flyer, printing things for you. It could be somebody who is part of your production process or an events strategist. It could be somebody who is really good at coding. It could be that it's somebody who is very qualified in a particular field. Imagine you are providing community emergency support for people who are struggling with mental health issues, and you're working with a qualified counselor. This is just an example, you know, like you want to work with people who are qualified, and there are people who volunteer that time, even if, or especially because they are so highly skilled in a particular area. So it's not just Swiss Army knife type people that are out there, but there's also highly specialized people. Who could you work with in this regard? Who might you need in an area of expertise where it would take a long time for you to get ready? And then there's also the administrators, the fundraisers, the financial handlers and advisors, and those people helping you with governance. So people who help you with running the back end of the organization, the strategic aspects, the financial aspects. Basel, you've got another comment here.
Yeah, I just want to reflect. I just remembered something. I want to reflect on what you said about seeing volunteers as a labor, but I also wanted to highlight that sometimes volunteers themselves, they see their contribution as something they are offering as a, how would I say, like, as they are giving you something out of their own good. But I think this is not the case. I think when the relationship is very clear what each person is getting, because like the volunteers sometimes like in internships and all sorts of like on volunteering, they are gaining something. So I think by owning the business, and what you have to put like the benefits of the volunteering opportunity very clear to the people so they know what to expect. And that's something very important for sustainability as well, because when people have this understanding, they know also how to build their time frame also well, to see when they will be ripening, like collecting the fruits of this volunteering within 3 months or 6 months. Yeah.
And with that clarity and the clarity of their role and the benefits to them, if it is truthful and authentic, because you're actually going to follow through on your plans, then you actually might get to a point where you don't feel guilty about asking for help, where you don't feel guilty about having volunteers, because it is a mutually beneficial relationship.
And also, yeah, sorry, because I work with Syrians and, you know, with people in the Middle East, the mindset of volunteering is, oh, I'm doing it for free, so you whatever I do is okay. It's like, no, if you are volunteering, this is a commitment. And when you know what you're getting, then I know what to expect from you. And then if you're not getting paid, it doesn't mean you can just like do like the lower standard you can. And I think this is also like one of the challenges that people like me from the Middle East working with my constituencies will face, is how I can bring this mindset to them as well. So I make sure they understand their role.
Yeah, that makes sense, Basil. And hence why, if you feel like in and around your community, there are some people who have not been exposed to that particular train of thought, introducing that is important. And also finding those gems who already have that attitude already, after all, is, of course, it takes a bit of time, you know. Again, that's why free labor is not a good thinking process. It's not about free, it's about qualified people who offer you their time, which I think is a good way of thinking about it. This is quite extensive and kind of overwhelming, but if you look at it, but let me say, it would be great if your volunteers are value aligned. Have you thought about what your company values are yet? We'll try and add a exercise to your Miro boards in the coming weeks, where you can do a bit of values planning on your own time. But once you're clear on your values, and I'm not sure if you've already discussed it in coaching, Hormuz and Jane, come in.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we did do a values exercise with everyone before they did it before the workshop one, but it's definitely worth going back to it and re-examining it again in terms of whatever has come up. But yeah, it was part of the pre-exercise.
Great. That's great, Hormuz. In that case, if you know your values from that exercise or from previously, or if you yet have to determine them, it'll be great to communicate your values to your volunteers. That's something that I've only learned quite late in the game, but I can impart that wisdom after that realization that it's really important to not just live them by example, but to make them explicit. Because it will also help you examine volunteers whilst you interview them, for example, for their roles, and pass your values past them, and for them to pass their values past you, so that you know if you're aligned, and that there isn't any bad surprises afterwards. Of course, the volunteers should be motivated and committed. They should be available, because there's a lot of people who want to help, but who are actually not truly available, and who will not prioritize the volunteering in such a way that they can guarantee to show up. But that's really important, because otherwise you can't build an operation with volunteers who are not really truly available. And of course, they should be to a degree competent, right? That all sounds very judgmental. I don't mean it like that, but they should be able to fulfill the role either soon with a bit of learning and guidance from you, or an expert that you might work with, or from the get-go, right? Because if it takes forever for them to get ready to do the role, then they're not the right person for the role. Maybe another role would be more suitable for them. So finding the right spot for volunteers is just as important as for employees. In terms of you should be clear on your values, clear on the volunteer roles, tasks, and responsibilities. You don't have to micromanage them from the get-go, but it's good to have quite a bit of clarity. You should be compliant with the law. There's legal regulations in the UK with regards to volunteers. We will link in your guide on Notion. If you remember, we've got the Ideas into Action guide. Lucas, if you don't mind sharing the link again here in the chat. That's the same link we've been using. We'll keep adding resources there. We will also add resources linking to the professional legal advice and professional documentation that helps you stay compliant within British law when it comes to volunteering. But it's not just about being compliant, it's about living the rules and not breaching the rules in how you work with volunteers. That shouldn't scare you, it's just relatively simple guidelines that you need to follow. So we will share those with you. You need to be respectful of the boundaries and time of the volunteers, so you can't expect them to go beyond the brief by default. In fact, ideally, they can stay within the brief that you communicated, or you have a new agreement when a new role emerges. Prepare to pay expenses as soon as that's possible, as soon as you're financially able. Because they too have expenses, and ideally they wouldn't need to spend their own money to support your organization. When you're ready, you should consider this. And yeah, give and take feedback as well. Don't see them just as people who execute your will, but rather they could have very valuable ideas. They could be hidden leaders at the beginning, even that could influence your practices, especially if they are the ones handling certain parts of your organization. They might know more about those things than you. So listen to them, make time for them once in a while to listen on that front. Just checking on time. In terms of connecting with volunteers, there's some really, really cool platforms out there. Aside from reaching out through your networks and the networks of your contacts, which is very valuable because people will already know about you. You can create profiles on UK-wide platforms like Reach Volunteering, where you will be able to post your volunteer roles. We use that at Turn, great platform, relatively easy to use. They also have some cool templates which we put on your Miro board as a link for volunteer roles, so that you can start getting acquainted with a professionally written volunteer role. That's something we can help you with in Spark as well. So if you want to request a session to write your first volunteer role, we can help you with that. Reach Volunteering is UK-wide. Escape the City is awesome. We use that all the time. They have a volunteer filter, and you can post volunteer roles here too. As you can see, there's more jobs on this platform than volunteer roles, so you might actually stick out in a way. But it's a London-centric platform, which might be useful for you. Sometimes people post volunteer roles here. We certainly do at Turn, and we have a partnership with Escape the City as well. So in case you talk to them directly, we might be able to arrange that, but you need to request it. For Scotland, we've got Volunteer Scotland. I'm sure our Scottish friends or the new Scots are very much aware of this platform, similar to the others. There's also Good Moves in Scotland, which you might be familiar with. Again, we've put those links in the Ideas into Action guide in a little subpage. We will make sure that's shared with you. Good volunteer roles, I've mentioned them. Look at the sample roles that we will send through to you on the Reach Volunteering website. We didn't have to recreate those, they had already made those, so that saved us some time. Good volunteer roles clearly add value to your organization, are clearly described, focus on a coherent, compact set of work streams and tasks that make sense together, ideally. So have people specialize, and it should be people who fill those roles who have a relevant skill set. If you communicate that up front, it will be easier to find people who know they have the relevant experience. Ideally, they are fairly timed, so not too many hours per week or month, and also time bound so that you can check in after a few months or weeks. So to see whether this role still makes sense for the person or whether they need to evolve their volunteer role. Okay, so you want to check in with them. And of course, you want to think how you can help your volunteers grow. Do you need to provide an onboarding any training. It can be informal. Don't get scared by that, but it is good to give them some time of your time back. And don't forget, it's not an unpaid job. That's not what you want to do. But there's some good documentation about that, which we'll share with you. We wanted to share something else in a bit, but I will say on the Miro board, you'll find this activity here, which we now won't have time to do together live in a breakout, which allows you to plan who you need to recruit. What are the roles? What would they do for you? So you can write that in this column here against admin volunteers, finance and governance volunteers in the yellow cells, against marketing and communication, against community engagement and events, and against technical expertise. You might not need all 4 at the moment, that's fine. But for those categories where you think you want to do it, you can go straight to that. So this is in the volunteers section. It is down here. If you saw, this was the partnership section. You can even read some cool case studies here from the community on the right-hand side, which is fun for partnerships. But really down here, you have the section about volunteers. Not only can you say what would they do for you, but also what skills, experience do they need? Who do you know already who has these skills? So are there people you know, individuals who have these skills? And also, where will you find relevant talent? So people that you don't know, where will you go to ask or to promote the volunteer roles that you want to write out? Okay, so you can do that. And I would recommend, after the presentation, if you have a little bit of time, take a break and then come back to it today and spend 20 to 40 minutes on it and just fill this template too. And when you've done that, you can alert us on the WhatsApp channel and you can say, hey, do you mind taking a look? And we will do so and give you some comments. You'll also find here the sample volunteer role. So you can click on this thing and then on this little link source, it says, and then you will.
It's still showing the last slide.
Oh, sorry. Wish somebody told me that earlier, but thank you, Hormos. Sorry, guys, this is where we were meant to be seeing what I was saying. So the partnership section is up here, and the volunteers section is down here. So what I was trying to explain was you can describe what role they would find for you, what role they would do for you, what skills and experience they need, who you already know who fulfills this type of skill set and could fill this role, and then where you could find them. And then you can do that for the different categories. So the yellow row is for the admins, the finance and governance guys, the volunteers on that matter. Then there's the marketing, communication, and recruitment type volunteers. And then there's the community engagement and events volunteers. And then there's the technical specialist volunteers. Down here is a link to the sample volunteer roles. You can click on here and then on this source link, and that will take you to the website where you will find the different volunteer roles. Just scroll down on that site. That's from Reach Volunteering. And here on the right-hand side, you will find links to these platforms I showed you earlier in the slides. So Reach Volunteering for UK-wide volunteers, Escape the City in London. In Scotland, we've got 2 platforms, and in Jersey for Newer, we've got 2 platforms as well. So for that, all you have to do is click on here and then click on source, and you should be able to jump to those websites. But no worries, we'll also put that in the Ideas into Action guide. So you'll have it in different places just to make sure. Okay, so I would recommend doing this activity if you have some time today, later in the day. This way the thoughts are fresh on your mind. Do let us know if you have completed it or when you have completed it, and then we can give you some comments. I think this is probably where we should finish because we are 3 minutes over. We wanted to give you this activity on the way. This way you can start reaching out on that front. We do have a feedback link, and we do have a few announcements of next steps. Hormos, Jane, do you have any announcements about coaching you wanted to make? Anything about that, or shall we just go on straight to?
No, I think we're just
other
quite
events?
clear about the dates that we have given everyone. Everyone has engaged with the coaching straight away. So that's all fine.
Super. Thank you, Hormos. If you are looking for co-founders and you're based in London and you are not busy tomorrow evening, there is an in-person event happening where Foundervine, a friendly organization that we collaborate with together with Lloyds Bank, are putting on a meetup where people can go network and meet each other. It's from 6:30 to 8:15. It's in a physical location. And I think Lucas is just sharing the registration link. We were only made aware of this recently, but we felt also to explain why it might matter. We needed to talk to you in this workshop, but we felt if some of you wanted to do a meetup activity tomorrow evening, you could register if it's still possible. I hope it's still possible, Lucas. I hope that this is not yet closed, so do check it out. And try and seek similar events if you're interested in meeting people for the different partnerships, volunteering, and even co-founder seeking purposes. In terms of a really cool opportunity, Lucas is delivering a bonus workshop that you can attend next week, Wednesday. Lucas, do you want to briefly talk about that?
Yeah, so as part of some of the wider work we do at Turn, which is with fellow kind of social entrepreneurs and change makers in our community, we also wanted to extend the invitation to you, where we have an amazing guest speaker, Caroline Gormley, who spoke with some entrepreneurs on our Takeoff program in December, and she is an expert on fundraising and specifically on accessing grant finance. And this is next Wednesday, the 30th of March from 5:30 to 6:45. I sent everyone an invite from the hello@weareturn account. And as social entrepreneurs, grant fundraising might be something that you are interested in and something you might be eligible for. So it's going to be a really friendly, relaxed Q&A session. So you can come with very specific Q&As relating, questions relating to your business. We do ask for one thing ahead of this. There is a talk that Caroline gave back in December. It's about a 45-minute long video. That is in the invitation to email. If you could just watch this ahead of time, because there's a lot of things she already explains. And so that everybody will be up to speed in the same place as we kind of ask more specific questions relating to your own social enterprises. If you've got any questions about that tool, just send me a message. And finally, there is the unlimited grant application deadline. We just wanted to throw this one in there. The next deadline is coming up on March 31st. Now, I'm aware that's very, very close. However, Unlimited are huge fans of people setting up social enterprises, social entrepreneurs with lived experience that are directly benefiting their communities, also around healthy aging, and also around employment programs and opportunities. Now, I think most of you here would probably be quite relevant for an unlimited grant. Fred and myself will be very happy to help you with that. I'm aware the turnaround is only 8 days. So it might not be this one, but if you think actually you're in a position where you would like to apply, Unlimited offer grants of up to £5,000 for early stage social enterprises and much higher amounts for social enterprises that have been going for a little while. We would love to support you with this application, or maybe one in the future where the next deadline after this is the 30th of June. But just wanted to flag and put on your radar if it is something you are interested in. Please do let Fred or myself know. We'd be more than happy to help you with an application as well. Anything to add to that, Fred?
Yeah, only what I said in the chat. So Lucas and I, at least I, will have a bit of time on Monday morning to help review any of your grant applications. I mean, I wouldn't be able to review 10, so Lucas, maybe we can split if you're available, but you would have to book in time with Spark. So we need you to book that first in order for us to reserve the time for it. And you know, it's much better if you try and write the grant as a draft, and we get it before the meeting and we review it, and in the meeting we help you refine it. Now, considering that that's all relatively short notice, we of course know that many of you will probably rather go for the deadline up until June 30th, which of course is still during the Ideas into Action program. So no, you don't have to be registered yet, I think, Lucas, right? Like, I think you can go in as an individual because it's for starters too. So yeah, that should be interesting. But again, don't stress now in case you know that you can't do it. Assess your resources and time until next week, end of next week, say, for example, and think about whether this is your priority. If not, look at it in April to June. We will help you with a Spark session happily. Thanks for the extra time, friends. This was all really awesome. Great to spend time with you and the birds here. And we would love it if you could give us some feedback. We are doing this in the first edition, so we want to do it even better next year. I would love to hear from you. If you could scan the QR code here, the Friendleaks QR code on the left-hand side, or click on the link that Lucas will send you on the chat box. We would really love it. And Hormos, Jane, Lucas, and I will then learn how to do things even better. Hormos, any last comments? Jane, any last comments?
No, I just thought that the birds particularly gave quite a lot of good advice. So it was great to hear them. It was really nice. But now, seriously, it was great that everybody got so involved in it. In terms of the breakouts, our group worked beautifully. And, you know, you were showing us some of the, you know, extra volunteering bits that needed to be done. You know, that was already being looked at in the group. So thank you, everyone, for your full involvement.
Thank you, guys. Lucas has shared the feedback link if you want to click on that or scan it on your phone. Thanks, Lucas, for sharing that. And yeah, if you want to say anything, you're also welcome to, by the way. But we look forward to seeing you in Spark sessions, in the session on the 30th, if you want to join for the Q&A with Caroline. And then, of course, the crowdfunding session that really kicks us into gear for an exciting last 2 months of Ideas into Action, or yeah, 2.5 months with Bertie. That'll be so exciting because then we're going into a new gear. So that's on the 13th of April. So we very much look forward to seeing you then. But do book Spark sessions, you know. We won't book them for you. You will have to book them. And if you don't know how to book them, then ask us on the WhatsApp group. You can also ask questions there. If you don't think a session is necessary, you can just send us a question and Lucas and I will respond promptly. Okay, so look forward to hearing from you. Have a good day. Enjoy the sun if there is some.